The magical violet land of Darien was once ruled by Garachias. His mastery of magic made him immortal, but he found ruling an empire more challenging than conquering it. So he installed 4 monarchs of unquestioned loyalty into each of the 4 kingdoms of Darien. These rulers were his own children.
To my firstborn son, Elson, I bequeath dominion over Eramon and the Sigil of Earth. No more thriving or beauteous land exists, and this worthy son will build an even greater kingdom, the marvel of the ages. To my second-born, Thersha, I give Zon of the Sigil Wind. Wild Thersha, born huntress, this is your fated home. A timeless, unspoiled paradise of beasts and haunted echoes of Kandra wizardry. And Locken, third-born and evil-bent, I crown you Master of Taros of the Sigil Fire. A crown of thorns though this hard land might be, you will tame this dangerous realm, or it will tame you. Finally, fair Corinna, sprite of the sea, you shall rule wave-washed Varuna of the Sigil Water. Answer true the water sigil's call to brave horizons in ships of wide beam and billowed sail. Garachias, Mage Emperor of Darien.
Garachias had one more legacy for his children: 4 Kandra artifacts. These gave each monarch mystic powers to rival his own, as well as immortality. If used wisely, these powers could bring new prosperity to the land. But if the force of mana were ever misused, it would slowly but surely bend and twist the children of Garachias. Beyond that threshold lay disaster, not just for one ruler or one land, but for all of Darien. Within a century, each had absolute rule over their respective land. A century later, Garachias, the man who had united the known world, vanished without a trace. For 1,500 years after the Mage Emperor's disappearance, the 4 kingdoms of Darien saw skirmishes and warfare, terrorism and piracy. But strict adherence to Garachias' magical discipline kept borders secure, until an incident described by one eyewitness as all hell broken loose. This was likely the end of the world. In the kingdom of Eramon, Emin the messenger approached the town of Abiad, accompanied by a small band of soldiers he encountered on the road. What happened next would send shockwaves through the whole of Eramon. In a letter to his wife, Emin would write of this: "I could hardly have anticipated the unholy holocaust that was Abiad." For the first time in Darien's history, demonic forces had been unleashed. An undead army had been sent to wreak havoc in Eramon. Though Emin survived, time was running out for those left in Abiad. They must get word to the coast garrison. Emin tried to calm the panicky soldiers and townspeople.
Friends, fear not the dead. Would you run from some addled crone or a palsied infant? Such is this so-called army. These are victims, not victors. Now bury your fears and get us to the garrison. Emin the messenger, Abiad.
From the walls of the garrison, Emin sent word of the invading horrors to the Lord Commander of the Eastern Realm, who concluded an ancient prophecy had come to pass. He wrote to King Elson.
"This necromancer of Taros, King Locken, has gained a new power. The dead walk in broad daylight. The natural order is overturned. This day was foretold in the Book of Darien. Only one thing can protect us: the Heart of Thesh, a relic lost since the time of the Kandra. I have this day directed my most trusted soldier, Joreth of Haldane, to retain a squadron of hand-picked volunteers to mount a quest for the Heart of Thesh, wherever it may be in Darien."
Scholars in the capital consulted ancient scrolls and tablets. Several references to the heart placed it in distant Varuna, near the city of Lothal. The expedition was soon underway, but Joreth's escape was blocked. Hordes of undead swarmed around the garrison. Across the sea from Eramon, the seafaring land of Varuna was also under attack. The assailants were monsters of a size and nature never seen before. Behind these attacks was Zon, a land of mystery ruled by Thirsha, the Huntress. This was no random event. It was Zon's task to drive a wedge between two allies, Eramon and Varuna. Keeping the two powers separated was essential for the invasion of Eramon to succeed. Creatures of the air descended on Varuna like angry bolts from a thunderhead. Back in Eramon, the Tarosian invaders pressed forward, though the element of surprise was no longer on their side. Eramon had begun to fight back. The army of undead and demons began to see their first losses. Their leader, the ruthless Zar Golan, rallies the restless army.
Deathmongers, Deathbringers, rise and offer black peace to the miserable breathers infesting this vile living land. Long live King Loken, Prince of the Dead. Zar Golan, Field Commander, Host of Taros.
A town would need to be eradicated. Varuna, angry with the recent incursions, sent an expeditionary force to the Zon coast. In the past, few dared venture there. Those who did seldom returned. This fact was not lost on the common sailors of the fleet. A Varunan sailor wrote in his log.
The coast of Zon came up and we saw some flying beasties that scared some of the younger men. Ailea's beard, not a one of us like this place. The Zon beasts may eat your livers, so we hear. The captain says, not to be fearful. It's easy for him. He'll stay aboard. Sharktooth the Younger, warship Varuna Storm.
On deck, first-timers froze in terror at an awful sound from deep within the Zon jungle. The tortured screams of living nightmares lying in wait. Zon resists Varuna's incursion into her territory. As was the custom before any significant battle, a Zon shaman chiseled this totem glyph.
Our warriors will crush the foul-smelling Varuna boatmen. Fire drakes will fill the sky. If these fools have a scrap of honor, they will cooperate and die quickly. We will sacrifice many beasts, and if need be, our own lives to cleanse Zon of these invaders.
Across the Edamothi Sea in Eramon, Taros' forces prepared a surprise attack from their well-fortified encampment. The Taros commander notified King Loken.
The necessary defenses are in place. This land is disgustingly soft and filled with life. I hate the cloying, almost sickly, sweet smell of the very air in this absurd land. I anticipate nothing stopping our progress toward the capital. A swift cut to the heart will rid us of these self-righteous sons of Eramon. I expect victory to be sudden and without mercy. Zar Golan, Field Commander, Host of Taros.
Taros learns of a devastating secret weapon the Alchemist Guild is developing for Eramon. King Loken was adamant that the invasion force take swift action.
We direct our personal assassin, Mirazi Heket, to seek out the Lord High Alchemist in the Kingdom of Eramon with pointed direction to his demise. I have sent an object you may find of some use, a ring of invisibility. O Belial, God of the Void, bring painful death to our enemies. Loken, Necromancer of Taros.
The nightmare legions of Taros continue to take their toll on Eramon. There appears to be nothing that can stop Loken's hellish menagerie from beyond the grave. Taros appears invincible now and seeks a swift conclusion.
Our senior warlocks have determined that a monument dedicated to Belial, built in the proper location, will provide final, certain victory for our unholy quest. Greymandros, Wizard of Taros.
But Eramon would meet this heretical construction on their sacred ground with a fevered resistance. On the beleaguered Eramon side, welcome news of hope. From atop the gates of Caeluin, King Elsin himself shouted out the good news to the anxious throng below.
Men of Eramon, rejoice! A mage weapon to win all wars is now ours. The Aether's fury has been tamed, and the reins to control it are now in our grateful hands. Citizens, even as the monsters of Taros darken Kiran's basin, our forces await them with savage new instruments of destruction. We are saved. Elson, Mage King of Aramon.
Aramon had discovered gunpowder. Across the Sea of Manaan in Varuna, Jorith and his band from Aramon continued their quest for the heart of Thesh. The difficulties mounted. The city of Lothal was already under attack by both Zon and Taros.
We must commandeer a tight new ship and supplies to continue. But having found Lothal under attack by beasties, we are hard-pressed to avoid trouble. Madness and disease has spread into the surrounding countryside. Smoke from the many bonfires of corpses has sickened my men. We must reach the relative safety of the city walls before nightfall, or this quest is over. Jorith of Haldane.
Over on the island kingdom of Varuna, beasts from Zon were wreaking more havoc, but the hardy seafaring kingdom was ready to fight back.
Zon fire drakes and other monsters continue to assault shipping lanes and harass coastal villages, despite best efforts. Recommend construction of shipyards and warships sufficient to launch assault on nearby island. I shall lead it myself, with pleasure. It's time to teach these unwelcome guests some manners. Solon Rix, Commodore, Varunan Navy.
A mysterious roiling of the ocean and skies around Varuna indicated a large group of Zon beasts were headed for the bay north of Lendra. This would be a critical area for the defense of their capital and their kingdom. Commodore Rix was unimpressed.
The commoners see avenging serpents of doom foretold by legend. Every bravo who ever cheated at cards thinks he brought this calamity upon the nation. I see overgrown carp and canaries. Food for cats. These creatures will soon be paraded through our streets.
Aramon has shared its revolutionary weapon with Varuna. In secret shipyards on the Isle of Athri, new warships are bristling with state-of-the-art armaments.
I have this day reviewed our magnificent new fleet. Varunan shipbuilders have fashioned such exquisite and glorious nautical juggernauts, such as to leave one without speech. A contingent of our sailors, having just arrived from Mahari, was caused to go silent in awe, then break out in great shouts of acclaim. The docks are still ringing with celebration. Lord Iljatha, Aramon Fleet Commandant, Varunan Theater.
Mighty man of wars, battle barges, trebuchet ships, all were ready to force Zon from the beleaguered shores of Varuna once and for all. Varuna and Aramon, in a mood for revenge, have brought their warships to the shore of Zon, but they have no intention of stopping there. A lone nomadic hunter from Zon, Mishana, encounters a Varunan base under construction. There was little time to warn his people. Varuna would spill into the interior within days if they were not stopped now. This puts their monarch, Queen Thirsha, at risk. With his fine tracking skills and a little luck, he seeks the lair of the stone giants. A lone hunter stood no chance against the armored invaders, but with the legendary stone giant at his side, there was hope. Only these walking towers of animated stone could withstand the Varunan's weapons and buy more time for Zon. The victory celebration was short-lived. Varuna remained highly resistant to Zon's attacks and began to arrive in greater numbers. It was clear that the smaller skirmishes and engagements were over. The war had now begun in earnest. Zon no longer fought to terrorize simple sailors. They now fought for their very existence. A war council of Zon chiefs is stunned by the appearance of Queen Thirsha. She was rarely seen outside the hidden city of Ulasem. No outsider had seen her for almost 1,000 years. She had transformed over the centuries into something less than human, but more than animal. To outsiders, she was a mystery, a near-legendary figure never seen by civilized eyes. To the Zon, she was no less than a goddess.
These schemers, these thieves who were once my brother and sister, they have encroached on us for centuries, pilfering an artifact here, a diamond there. Now they come in force to take everything from us. We must fight like never before, not as scattered tribes and creatures, but as one mind, one hand, one sword. Thersha, Huntress of Zon.
The jungle orcs were thirsty for Varunan blood. Zon had taken its toll on the weary Varunans. Back at the floating camp, plans were being laid to reclaim a beachhead on Zon.
It is shameful for a son of Varuna to say this, but our army needs land beneath its feet. Our only hope is in establishing a new foothold on this dank-fetid continent. The new ships have been promised for weeks, yet the weather delays them again and again. We will never take the greater target Terros without them, nor will we leave Zon alive. Lear, send us calm seas soon. Sullen Rix, Commodore, Varunan Navy.
Finally, the magnificent ships of doom, as Commodore Rix of Varuna called them, arrived.
These gunpowder-fueled death machines, the trebuchet, the man of war, shall take us straight through the Straits of Geryon, clear to a landing south of Elam. The capital of Terros is thus within our grasp. With ships such as these, Zon will pose no threat. And King Lochen, we hear the roar of these mighty guns all the way from his precarious throne. Solon Rix, Commodore, Varunan Navy.
The island of Zakum in the Sea of Tapas seems a perfect staging area for a Varunan invasion of the Taros mainland. However, Varunan spotters in observation balloons detect large concentrations of Tarosian troops. The Commodore's response? Target practice. In the Taros camp, the Aramon prisoners had been subjected to sacrifice and torture, all under the direction of Baron Lamar, the Butcher of Zakum. With the camp liberated, a great cry for revenge was heard, both from the former inmates and the horrified invaders.
We had seen some terrible things. Not one of us would shrink from killing the Baron with bare hands, given the chance. Khan Fix, soldier of Aramon.
Across the island, the Baron is barricaded in his fortress, intent on escaping the vengeance of his former prisoners. Back in the Kingdom of Zon, the quest for the Heart of Thesh has led Jorith to the ancient Kandra ruins of Lehun.
The smoke of battle was still in the air. I encountered many dead and battle wreckage, catapults and other battle engines of some use. Also sundry monsters of a size and type to be avoided at all costs.
Jorith was approaching a terrible discovery, the key to the Heart of Thesh mystery. The best hope for Aramon and Varuna was gone, and their worst fear was realized. As a skilled sorcerer, Lochen was also aware of the prophecy surrounding the Heart of Thesh. Like Jorith, his agents, both magical and mundane, had been scouring Darien for months in search of the heart. Scant hours ahead of Jorith's arrival in Lehun, their quest met with success. Lochen now possessed the Heart of Thesh. Without it, the demons and undead afflicting Darien could never be sent back to their dark netherworld. Jorith writes to the Lord Commander.
Time is short, and I cannot await your counsel. If we are to recover the heart, we must proceed directly to Terros. There I will divine where the necromancer has hidden the thing. I will take it from his bony hands directly if need be. Jorith of Haldane.
Across Vanir's breach from Zon, Aramon had been betrayed by one of its own. Lord Buriash allied with Taros and allowed a massive force to enter via his province. His price? The crown of Aramon once the invasion was complete. House Buriash had once ruled Aramon, and with this alliance it hoped to regain its lost glory. Even his own soldiers were astonished at the boldness of this move.
I never seen such an army as we had. Quick corpses and banshee beasts joined up with traitors and all manner of lost bastards. Towns were not taken, more like eaten. There's no doubting that the Buriash will put us back on top before the year is out.
With the Tarosian Black Knight and Dark Hand, not to mention the earth-based spells from his acolytes of Anu, the traitorous Buriash sweeps across Aramon unchecked like a poisoned wind from hell. The Buriash-Lochen Alliance army plunged forward without sleep or mercy. Their target was the holy seat of Narmer and the splendorous temple of Anu.
The ancient temple before us represents an evil past. and the old fearful ways of Ilsen, that must die for us to live. Join me in my quest for a new, stronger Aramon, where the gift of mana is enjoyed by all, not just a distant, immortal king. We are the future. We are the brave new order. Lord Buriash, Salvatore of Aramon.
Narmer seemed helpless to resist the forces engulfing it. The two sides seemed to have a knife poised at each other's throats. Back in Taros, Aramon's invasion is proceeding to plan. Under the leadership of young Lord Durnhest, preparations are being made for the siege of Shekelesh.
We are all afraid at night. The enemy creatures make such odd noises. We have lost several of my troop to desertion. It is not a land fit for humans.
The first order of business was the pacification of the surrounding countryside. Durnhest's army mounted a massive offensive to rid the area of opposition. Young Durnhest presses on post-haste toward the key city of Shekelesh. The campaign continued smoothly as the Tarosians scatter in the wake of Aramon's advance. Outriders and scouts report puzzling activity in the enemy camp.
This lock-in, the Grave Disturber, makes a strange general. I pressed on a league or so ahead of our main force and infiltrated a zombie contingent by adopting like garb and manner. If the soldiers of Aramon appeared in the place, we were instructed to quickly leave, giving the invaders free rein. Unknown, spy of Aramon.
Lordling Durnhest was disappointed at the ease of conquest the scattered zombie forces of Taros presented. This great military undertaking, he complained, has been just that. Bury the dead, bury the dead. These words would soon prove to have two meanings. The Lord Mayor of Shekelesh deferred to Aramon's overpowering force and immediately surrendered to Lordling Durnhest. The forces of Aramon marched into a city nearly empty of inhabitants. Nevertheless, young Durnhest seized the opportunity to glorify his victory.
By the silver hand of Anu, Lord of Light, I claim these blasted lands for Ilsen, Mage King of Aramon, Slayer of monsters, Forgiver of heresies, Champion of morality, and Collector of tribute. Lord Durnhest, Noble of Aramon.
But the empty city begged an unasked question. Where had everyone gone? Taros had maneuvered the Aramon army into the confining walls of Shekelesh. Aramon pacification patrols began scouring the grounds outside the city walls.
Our nobles were inside, feasting and drinking. But outside, we could smell them out there, the things. Had to be thousands. Enough to make your skin crawl.
Tarosian death squads ringing the city now moved silently to liquidate these patrols. The attack, when it came, had to be a complete surprise. The Tarosians descend on Shekelesh with an inhuman fury. There seems no end to their numbers, no limit to the carnage. This day becomes known as the Slaughter of Shekelesh, a day of celebration. Amidst the smoking ruins, this letter from a worried soldier survives.
Outside the walls of the city, I can hear death screams now and bellowing monsters in full attack. I will not return from this one, that's sure. We're all surrounded and 10 to 1 outmanned. It was a bad plan, coming here like this. Confix, soldier of Aramon.
Meanwhile, in the kingdom of Zon, the strife in Aramon and Taros has cut supply lines to the struggling Varunans. Patrols into the dense wilderness of Zon seldom return.
We know what the boatmen think of us. They think we are only animals, each fighting to protect itself, but not a true army. But all our tribes stand together now. Kinik and Ihom were once enemies. Today, one baits the snare, while the other draws tight the string. These northern people are angry and fearful. Who then is truly the animal?
Zon must now get the measure of the Varunan encampment's defenses. The Uru tribe is legendary for their hunting abilities in which they stealthily gain access to prey.
One quiet man can see what a vast army cannot. Troyus, Uru warrior.
Once more, the indigenous skills and resolution of the Zon are put to the test against the invaders from Varuna. Zon now moves on a massive scale to rid itself once and for all of the Varunan pests. The gun-bearing warships are particular targets. The Varunan commander summed it up.
This is cannon and steel versus animals and arrows. Why bother with strategy?
He was about to learn why. Zon's humanoid and beast army swept toward the coast installations with a vengeance. Back in Aramon, the traitorous Lord Buriash now demands unconditional surrender at the gates of the capital. For this, he will guarantee the safety of the population. A skeptical King Elson will have none of it. He calls Emin the messenger to his chamber.
I have this hour been commissioned by the king. I am tasked to assassinate the traitorous Lord Buriash by means of delivering a message with poisoned dagger in place of surrender. Be brave, inasmuch as I will be foolish enough to make the attempt. Your husband, Emin.
Dagger in diplomatic pouch, Emin enters the camp under the intense scrutiny of the traitor's bodyguards. With Buriash dead, the Tarosian troops and creatures turned on their one-time allies. Towns and castles freshly conquered were once again awash with fire and blood. Back in Buriash's home province, the common folk had had enough. Anger and shame over their lord's cooperation with Taros, and the new attacks by wandering bands of undead prompt the common folk to take arms. A group of farmers, led by a single determined woman, Ayla Goss, are on the long march.
Our lord betrayed Aramon, but shall we? We will not serve the dead, the demons, the yoke of evil that Buriash has put on. Let us storm the gates of House Buriash and end this plague on our fair land. Ayla Goss.
Bereft of armament, the brave insurgents hope to swell their ranks and prevail through sheer numbers. Jorith reaches the vicinity of Elam, the capital of Taros. Through stealth and interrogation of a captive zealot trooper, he discovers the Heart of Thesh is kept in a heavily guarded compound outside the city walls. This is the Temple of Belial.
The objective is to penetrate the temple's perimeter by means of stealth, as confrontation would prove folly. Once inside, we may have a fair measure of battle. Jorith of Haldane.
Jorith observes the temple patrols are frequent but regular. Jorith had succeeded. With the artifact in hand, he journeyed back from the hellish land of Taros and across the sea to the island of Estoril, the ruined capital of the lost Kandra. It was here that a strange and dangerous ritual would be attempted. The priests of Anu, after sifting through many ancient tomes, discovered the true purpose of the Heart of Thesh. The heart could summon the mighty sacred dragons of Anu. This was the means of their delivery. First, the priests must attempt a weaving of forces that hasn't been attempted in over 1,000 years. Even the mage emperor Garakias had never mastered this treacherous spell. The gathered priests and mystics decided that where one mage had failed, a group might succeed.
We will attempt a sacrifice of animals in the sacred circle, in the presence of the Heart of Thesh. If we fail, our universe is forever in the hands of darkness. Dumago, High Priest of Anu.
The sacred dragons, summoned by the Heart of Thesh, begin to free Aramon from the black grip of Taros forever.
The dragons of Anu carry on their splendorous wings the soaring hopes of good men everywhere. And where their shadows cast out our enemies, and favor fair Aramon to a kinder destiny than Logan's black rule. Dumago, High Priest of Anu.
No one had ever seen dragons fighting on the side of righteousness before. The forces of Taros scattered in terror. In Zon, the beleaguered forces of Varuna look to the sky. At first they are terrified, thinking a new monster has arrived to decimate them. Then they hear a collective wail from the surrounding beasts and hunters. As if by instinct, the Zon know the great flying creatures have come for them. They will remember this day for generations in song and hushed stories around their fires. The dragons of Anu descend, burning their way into history. The dragons, the uprising in Eramon, and Elsin's appearance on the battlefield has tipped the scales of battle in favor of the Eramon-Varuna alliance. Here in Zon, all pretense of organized resistance falters, and increasingly the tribes turn to a single desperate goal.
One heart among us holds the spirit, voice, and blood of our ancestors. All tribes of Zon must be as roots of one tree and protect Queen Thersha, as Tammuz, goddess of the hunt, protects us all. Zon, tribal leader.
The Zon forces collapse around Queen Thersha's royal standard and slowly retreat back into the jungle. The taste of war had soured. Their only goal now was to protect their queen and vanish into the enfolding safety of Zon's interior. Varunan aerial spotters are keeping close watch on the escaping Zon forces, allowing ambushes to be set for them in clearings. As the Zon warriors protecting the Huntress make for the Haemus Mountains, they hope to snare Varunans in their own deadly traps. The battle to protect the Queen grows more fierce. Eramon and Varuna sweep across Darien. The remaining undead in Eramon are quickly dispatched. The few fanatics still loyal to Buriash are captured and soon put to work rebuilding the cities they had helped to destroy. Zon is in retreat, and Varuna is once again in control of the sea. One final obstacle remains. Loken, the necromancer, king of Taros, is waiting behind the walls of his capital, Elam. As the siege begins, Loken's chief sorcerer, Delos, passes a cryptic order to his elite squad of wizards.
Our master has commanded us to convey this precious cargo away from danger. Your lives, the very living essence of each of you, is as nothing to the safety of this. Delos, chief sorcerer to Loken.
A curious band of warriors, expert mages, and their beastly minions prepare for the smuggling of a mysterious bottle right through the iron grip of Elsin's army. The leaders of the allied forces of Eramon and Varuna fear that Loken has escaped their noose, but sorcerers divine his presence still within the city of Elam, and so the noose draws even tighter. The walls of the city must be breached. The combined forces of Eramon and Varuna hold the land and passes near the coast, and it is up to the escort carrying Loken's precious secret cargo to find a way through the enemy lines. Rantel, a royal sorceress escorting the wagon, speculates on the mission in her journal.
The journey from Elam was beset with dangers. Our powers are taxed to the limit to defend this mysterious cargo. What can it be that Loken values so highly? I would attempt a divination were I not so sure that the others would detect it and thwart me. We have no choice but to push onwards to the sea. Rantel, sorceress to the crown of Taros.
The smugglers must create a diversion for the fleet blocking the road to their ship. The central forces of the Eramon-Varunan alliance continue to press forward to the very heart of Elam. Now they must breach the inner fortress. Victory is in their grasp, but the besiegers are wary. What tricks did Loken have in store for them? Meanwhile, the Mage Brigade, bearing the mysterious bottle that Loken had sacrificed so much to protect, draws near the ship of a smuggler. The captain sees only a wealthy client with contraband to be moved, never realizing the magnitude of his cargo. Captain's log.
We remain cloaked, yet we will be quickly spotted if drawn too closely to the ships of Eramon and Varuna. This cargo arriving, this strange Loken-crafted bottle, upsets the whole crew. They fear it is an evil thing and can bring only ill seas and serpents to our voyage. Even our destination is unknown. The bottle is to hold that key as well. Captain Belden, RTS, Sea Shadow.
Loken's defenses were melting away, but he had preserved a truly terrifying host of allies for his final confrontation with his brother and sister, King Elsin and Queen Kyrena. When commanded by them to surrender, Loken replies with his customary confidence.
Elsin, Kyrena, the good children. still following the useless law of a long-forgotten king. I have discarded the superstitions of the old man. I have gained power and wisdom beyond your comprehension. I will soon throw off the shackles of this backward land, and even the heavens will quake at my command. A pity you have wasted your immortality seeking the praise and adulation of these pathetic mortals. You could have cast them off like so many fleas and joined me on a higher plane of consciousness. You have wasted your lives. I will therefore take them from you.
Word got round that the necromancer was dead. That set off such drinking and carousing we'll never see the equal. Men like me with a home and wife just started back, for there was no more army or need of one. I saw some undead returning to the ground. Looks like the fight has gone out of them. I don't figure on going to the next war. Confix, soldier of Aramon.
When the fleet returned to the harbor at Lindra, it seemed that all Varuna was there to welcome us home. Banners were hung on every wall. People filled every rooftop and pier. Each warship fired a fusillade as they cleared the lighthouse. Common people had yet to see these new weapons and were quite entertained. We all felt like heroes that day. Solon Rix, Commodore, Varunan Navy.
Narmer astounded all who returned. The devastation was beyond belief. It seemed no two bricks previously joined had remained together. Yet there in the rubble were bedraggled shopkeepers with their wares on makeshift tables. Two alchemists sat on a toppled statue arguing about chemicals and compounds. We people of Aramon are tough. A battalion of mage masons are soon to arrive. Hope has returned to Narmer. Andra Hokaran, historian of Narmer.
1,500 years of strife amongst the four monarchs concludes with the triumph of righteousness. The criers shout this from every rampart in every kingdom. Celebratory bonfires line every shore from Lendra to Gwillian. The heroic dead are mourned, and that which was broken is repaired. Taros is now called Taros Freeland. Its surviving people, scattered by war and calamity, begin to return. Life would never be soft in that harsh, forbidding land, but with the shadow of Lochen lifted and his demonic minions fled, the land will heal. Life begins anew. And to the north, in the Sea of Mokena, an icy gale drives the lone schooner, Sea Shadow, to the end of the world. To the end of the old world.
The pilot swears the very stars themselves are shifting. The magnetic stone spins like a dervish. Many good sailors have gone mad and stepped overboard for curing. The wheel spins with its own mind now, and steers for strange black clouds at the north horizon. Except for my captaincy, I would follow my men and seek the mercy of those black waves. Captain Belden, RTS Sea Shadow.